Dear comrades, for the first time in the history of space, on November 27, the 1971st year, the Mars-2 automatic station brought to the surface of Mars a vampire capsule depicting the coat of arms of the Soviet Union. And then, as a result of the flight of the Mars-3 station, the difficult task of landing on the surface of Mars and the landing machine was accomplished. The Soviet automated interplanetary stations have been moved to the orbits of the artificial satellites of Mars, and the integrated scientific program of planetary research continues to be carried out in a joint flight.
It's a movie about a great dream that humanity has passed through the millennia.
It's the dream that's come true these days. In our country. People didn't know much about their home planet yet. Their caravans went to an unknown archipelagic and islands. They had yet to open the ground. They could dream. Among the stars, they found the tiny tongue of the flame of the planet called Mars, the Lord alone. The history of the planet's unbridled light of fantasy, disappointment and joy, and it's always a dream. The astronomers of the past did not have very sophisticated tools, but they also helped to get the first data on Mars. His study was spent most of his life. Quiet, braggy. Johann Kepler, Schiaparelli, Lowell, Gabriel Andrianovich, and dozens of scientists all over the world. People learned about the diameter of Mars and the atmosphere in which carbon dioxide was found. About his two satellites, Focus and Deimos, about the slope of the axis of rotation. There's only a year shift on Mars that's twice as long as the Earth. The climate is more severe because Mars is much further away from the Sun, and you're here with a polar cap. They're shrinking in the summer. Maybe it's snow. It's a time of waves, darkness. What is vegetation? Whether or not there are minds from the spa of this down conference of experts on Canada fish and without meeting with a penny and a culture in the 1877th year. An Italian astronomer, Schiaparelli, put on a map of Mars ruished. He called them channels. The scientists didn't realize that this drawing was gonna kill his name, and it's not just gonna rock the scientific world. The Great Martian Infestation began. That's how the artists pictured them. Fantasy gave birth to ships on which the Martians had come to conquer the Earth. There are poetic images of a beautiful islet. How many myths are associated with the Martians? No, they're on the books forever. Our first Martians. Soviet. Born in a factory shop. Here they are, the future inhabitants of the Martian seas. Their creators are now completing the installation of instruments and equipment. There's our Martian's eyes on the camera. What will she see on a mysterious planet? Fragile instruments need to be preserved from space cold and sunshine, from the super low temperatures of micrometeorologicals. And there's a future Mars satellite next door. People haven't built such space machines yet. They learn to live in space for months. Onboard computer machine. The station's brain will help the astronautic system find Earth and Mars on the black velvet and one of campus's stars. The station will fly in a strictly defined position, like being nailed to space, like a joke, by a structure. And not only during the flight, but also in orbit of the Mars satellite. It's an antenna. He's gonna transfer the flow of scientific information to the ground. Stereo needs his antenna for the experiment. Scientific instruments will explore the red planet, and a photo of the television device will photograph it. The landing vehicle will have passengers during the flight. He's been in space for 6 months. Orbital and landing compartments will form a whole. They're separated from the red planet. The Martian folder is the first one to meet the atmosphere of another planet. That's where the Earth's ambassadors have to break through. It's all over for a sleepless night now. Designers. This installer and the Pekinas of the tester. This station is a replica of Mars-2 in Moscow after the sterilization cycle. Mars-1 started 10 years ago, now it's their turn. That's how they go to strange and unknown worlds. Man-made Martian. Until we meet the Lars nearly 500 million miles from here. But right after it went into orbit, the station became a research laboratory. Earth gets information about interplanetary processes. The spacecraft that reached the Moon or even Venus were less autonomous than the Martian stations. The station's brain evaluates the situation itself and makes its own decisions when it's corrected and takes it to Mars. This autonomy of the spacecraft is characterized by the impatience of outer space. It's too far away from Earth to the station to pass on the command and get an answer. It takes more than 15 minutes. But before the communication session, you have to clearly imagine how Mars will perform the Earth's commands. There was another station in the Earth's lab. It's a duplicate of those who went to town with Moose. She's kind of flying to Mars, paving the way, and today she's actually helping to fly. But there's a real Mars. It could be different. Stereo, a Soviet-French experiment, was conducted in outer space. It gives us a vast picture of the processes going on in the Sun. Radiophysics will learn to predict the emergence of magnetic storms in the Earth's ionosphere. Any event in the Sun is bound to affect our planet. The stations were divided by one landing on the surface and becoming an artificial satellite of Mars. In a quarter of an hour, the Earth will know about the decision of the electronic robot. Orders the braking engine on the orbital compartment. Earth doesn't interfere. Waiting. The Martian has brake screen slowed down, but it's still big. In the Martian sky, the first Earth's parachute. Soft landing engines went off. The automatic station began to work on command. It's a temporary device program. The orbital section was the second artificial satellite of Mars. You can transfer information to Earth through it. It serves as a repeater. The Martian spy went through the atmosphere of another planet on December 2, 1971 year. 15 hours and 50 minutes. For the first time in the history of space, a video signal was transmitted from the surface of Mars. The scientists, in that kind of information, to make an unknown planet mimic the Martian hero. Thousands of times this way, on Mars, the labs that were created were tested by a machine gun. Designers tried to plan everything. But too little is known to scientists about the surface of the planet, about its physical features. 3 months after the Red Planet's launch, a dust storm intensified. During the landing of the vehicle, the wind speed reached 100 meters per second. Dust has risen to a height of 6 kilometers. And Mars satellites continued to work together, doing research from different orbs. During communication sessions, the information received goes to Earth. The photography has begun. The film is processed on board and then televised. The personnel are being transferred to Earth. One of the first photos given by Mars-3. The filming took place through 3 light filters. After the electronic processing optics, the first color image of Mars is synthesized. The U.S. Mariner works with the Soviet stations. The instruments are studying Mars, its outer space. Mars is a cold planet. In the middle latitudes of the southern hemisphere, the summer day -20 degrees, on the night side -90. But there are warm islands, 10-15 degrees warmer out there. What are these areas yet to be known? It's a mystery again. The scientists who sent their scouts to a distant planet have a lot of work to do. There is a unique scientific equipment on board the station. It measures the altitude difference on Mars, the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere, its density, hydrogen, oxygen, atom or argon, and so on. These data are of interest to scientists all over the world. Under an international cooperation agreement, scientific information obtained in Moscow is transmitted to France and other countries. For a modern scientific planet, Mars is the most understandable cycle in these columns. It's not too late for my world to be as interesting and exciting as it is. That's what the fantasists changed their minds about. Our time is the time of dreamers. They work at the plant's workshops, preparing for a new flight to the universe. Tomorrow, the stations will go into outer space to tell the inhabitants of the Earth about the very distant but closer we are to Mars. Two brothers by reason. We'll look for them no longer on Mars, but in other star systems and galaxies. Humanity is on the sloppy path of the universe, and there is no force to stop this movement into the future.